Today we are going to be making another card using our clear stamps. This is the Set Summer Vibes with some nice beach elements, fancy fruit drinks, and so on. Today I'll be using my watercolors again since this is a nice beachy vibe, and in addition I'm planning on rounding the edges of my paper and have also cut out all of my stamps using my Cricut, and this is just going to have a nice backing so that the black ink has a good contrast. I also have my clear block, tape glue, water, and additional supplies off to the side. First things first, I'm going to round all my edges and get that out of the way. I'm going to do one corner at a time. There's one. Two. And the last one. Set that aside. Now this is going to be the first layer on my card today. This is just a lightly textured cardstock in kind of like an off navy color with an additional white cardstock here where my watercolors will be added. Whoop. There we go. Sometimes if you're not putting the paper all the way in, it'll kind of get that weird edge, but just go and try again. All right. So first thing, I'm just going to glue my textured backing on first, set that aside, and then I will be painting on this smaller set. My card is 5x7, and I just kind of eyeballed. I'm not the greatest measurer, and cut down this blue piece a little bit smaller so that it had somewhat of a white border around it. And there we go. Oh, that was actually pretty good. Set that aside. I am going to also stamp onto my little white outlines and give that time to set aside and set up. I will be using the Remarks pigment ink again, and this ink you want to give it some time to set up. This card is going to be playful, bright, some nice colors, and honestly I just really like how the watercolor looks, and it's so easy, and it's also one of my favorite mediums to use because it's not perfect. It looks good no matter how you do it, and anyone can be successful. I'm gonna try, ooh, it looks like I'm actually missing some. So that's a nice thing about these clear blocks. You can really get a sense of what is being covered and what is in need of some additional pigment. Push down. Voila. All right, cleaned up my hands a little bit just so no pigment's gonna be getting on this nice sheet more than it already has. And Something that you can do to make sure your paper is staying down is just add a little sliver and even kind of tap your finger over it just to kind of loosen up some of that stickiness. You don't want it too sticky because, again, we have to peel this back off. So if you're gluing that whole thing down, that's just going to be a mess. I have a nice round brush, my watercolor palette again, and a little dish of water. I'm going to be doing kind of sand in the foreground. The foreground is what's closest to you. The midground is just like it means, right in the middle, and the background, so things that are off in the distance. So I'm going to work from the top down, just so if I'm working from down up, I want this to be sand colored, and if that starts to mix in with waters and blues, it might get really muddy looking and just yucky. So let's see, what color do I want to start with? I think I'm going to start with this color. Why not? I really like round brushes for watercolor because not only can you get really fine lines with the tip, but you can get these nice big blob flat washes. That looks good. I think I'm gonna go to kind of like a periwinkle almost. Very similar effect to the shark card with that ocean vibe kind of blended down. And maybe I'll take a risk. What's this one? Maybe a bit too dark for what I want to do. Maybe I'll kind of have it blend down into, maybe some purple. Why not? And if you ever feel like, whoa, that is not at all what I wanted to do, rinse that brush off and just get more water on there. And that looks pretty nice, actually. You can really start to blend that middle out. I'm leaving, again, just a little bit of white. I'm not doing anything precise or exact because, again, that defeats, in my opinion, the purpose of watercolor. So this is kind of like my sandy foreground. Maybe do something light like that. Maybe I'll mix in some of this yellow. And here you can really understand what I mean by working from the top down, just because these all blended nicely, but blending yellow and purple, which are opposite colors, you're going to get, honestly, some forms of brown. So working in this way is much more effective, and your colors are going to stay true to what you want them to be. And now what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to cover that with just some scrap paper. And I think I'm just going to get that blob off that brush. I'm going to go in. Maybe a little too rusty. That's better. I can kind of blob some of that water off. Oh yeah, that's nice. And just kind of flick. Not looking for anything really specific, but just a little bit of texture so it reads a bit more like sand. And then that way it doesn't get all over my nice blue sky. All right, I think I'm ready to attach. Flip that guy over. Again, I want to get really close to the edge with this watercolor because it has a tendency to curl. And because of that, if I get my edges nice and flat, the rest of the paper will also lay down nicely. Now I'm ready to color. As always, I'm using my favorite, my Prismacolor alcohol-based markers. Have a little test piece of paper here to make sure that the color I've chosen is actually what I want. And I think I'm just going to do kind of a classic white and blue polar beach umbrella. Go one there. I'm gonna go in with my white gel pen. I just did some little highlights here. All right, and now I think I'm ready to start laying out my pieces, see what I want. All right, I'm actually looking at my palm trees and I'm thinking to myself, maybe they need to be stamped directly onto the paper to look more in the background without this white cast over. However, that's a great element to save for an additional project. It's already cut out, it's inked, it's ready to go. Much better. I'm gonna hit this with some tape. I do want my card to have a custom saying. In order to do that, I have some clear cut letters in both capital and lowercase, and these are a little larger font. So today I'm going to be using both. And to do that, I'm just going to get my little block. And you have to work backwards, which I'm not super good at. So you kind of have to flip the block and look at it as you go. Today I'm going to be spelling out seize the day, but not as in seizing something, but the sea, the ocean. Not too bad. And with that, I think I'm satisfied. If you want to go in with additional embellishments, like gems or pearls, like I have done in the past, you certainly can. But I feel like overall, this doesn't necessarily need them. I like how it looks. It's got good colors, good placement, some 3D elements, and some white highlights with some additional stamping and layering. So I like it. I think it looks good. As always, we would love to see what you will make with our clear stamps. So in order to share that with us, please tag us in your post, #StampWithUs. Again, Hashtag stamp with us. Thanks for joining.